Status demos. Topics. I have some topics. So topics. Who's there? There is some things to talk about.
Benedict should also have a demo, I think.
Okay, sorry, I didn't ask what demo because I was expecting Sipke to do a demo. He was not here, and then.
Didn't you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, and it's Orchard too, not Brochard anymore.
Yeah, it's for fun. Okay, Orchard. Just for you. Topics. Crap. I had 2 topics. Oh, NuGet. I have more topics. Just to mention what is going on the conversation community, and if I'm missing something, please let me know that I'm missing something important. Because I just see what I see, I don't see what you see. NuGet, what else? IDs, design, blah blah blah. There's something about that. What else? That will be it for now. Identity, if we have time, I see there is some discussion, recurring discussion on Gitter about identity. I'd like to hear what you think before we start something in and okay, status then. Let's start with the status. Is it this one? This one. I have 1 commit. Yeah, Rebracer keeps adding that. Maybe I will push at some point. So what happened since last week? This is, wow, so many branches. Wow, crazy. Maybe merges too. So this is mostly about the new admin theme. Okay, same thing. Lombiq fixing the new lines. Again, this is then a list of pull requests from Thursday work. Removing duplicate fields from content part fails. Yes, so when you were to have a duplicated field with the same name, you could not remove any because it was expecting only 1 and failing. Now, even if you have 10, it will remove 1. So you can remove it multiple times. This one is a clone of a fix we did on the dev branch, which is adding a specific user activity like login or log fail, something like that, which was not declared in the 19x branch. So you just copied the fix over to 19x. So this is the new admin branch. I'd like to see it someday. This one is an optimization on the shape tracing factory. Well, optimization. Ensuring that we have an HTTP context when we do shape tracing, because it doesn't make sense to show them if we don't have an HTTP context, but this change will be impacted by a bigger change from Jean-Thierry, which will fix the usage of HTTP context and how it's injected in dependency injection. So I've reviewed the pull request with him during 1 hour and understood every changes. So it will go soonish, like this week, into at least dev branch. I see some chat. If I'm missing some conversation, please let me know. I will just announce for now. Let me know if I'm missing something. This one, so what is it about? I can't remember. Yeah, it's an optimization. So this method won't be executed for every type of content, just for images, because it's about invalidating the profile when the images when a profile has changed. This was a recent commit, and this one fixes the recent commit. Theme dependencies. This is for supporting the dependencies when a theme is enabled. It will enable also all the dependencies. We talked about it on Thursday. I think there were one commit, yeah, one commit, and it has been merged in dev, yes. Fix a binding issue with form element driver. We'll trust that. Binding issue, form element driver, okay. I'm sure it's more than just renaming the file. There is a new thing here. Oh yeah, I saw a bunch of that. Fix the second binding issue, same thing. This one is more important. It's about not evaluating the tokens for the actual value of the field, just for the label and names, because otherwise it could encode the, well, the issue was found by seeing that there was an HTML encode call when doing the tokenizer. There is an option for some of them to still tokenize the values but not encode them by default. It's up to the view/theme to say if it has to be encoded or not, because it could contain some HTML. So there are two changes. You see, this one, for instance, is just saying, oh no, that's not what I'm. There should be a change. Yes, this one. Some of them now will be tokenized with the no encode option, and some others won't be encoded at all. Meaning you can't paste tokens. This is on my next branch. Dynamic form merge issue, then this another merge. Get in the dev branch. This is a breaking change if there is an implementation of iMage profile manager, which I assume there isn't, but it's a breaking change, so it's in dev. The idea being that when you call get image profile URL, now you can use multiple filters at the same time when you call the service. Before you just could use one filter. So for instance, rotate and crop. And this one is fixed duplicate field shape, so again with dynamic forms, I assume layouts here. Layouts. Okay, questions about the changes? So I have a meeting with let me see who's there, if Jamie is not here. I don't remember the name of his buddy, but he's not here either. So I have a meeting tomorrow with a developer from Microsoft who was supposed to provide a pull request for the radio systems module for Azure AD authentication, because he could not create a PR. So I have a meeting with him tomorrow, and I'll get the code and submit the PR myself, or I will drive him how to do that. So we should have the Azure AD code finished by the end of the week. So we can integrate that in the main repository. We'll see how it goes. Docs, am I missing something from the comments here from the chat? If it's not just docs. Oh, welcome, Matt. Matt, are you the Matt from Gitter?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Matt joined Gitter and asked a bunch of questions, so good. No questions about the status? it's fine. So systems module PR checked in by end of week. Demos Benedek.
Shall I start?
1 second.
Thank you. I will share my screen then. Okay, so please tell me when you can see my screen, and this time you don't have to wait for me.
Well, we are waiting for you right now.
Oh yeah, actually you do. Sorry about that.
I can see. Anyone else?
Okay.
Me too.
Yeah, no problem here.
Yeah, can see it.
Cool. So what I would like to show you is a module we have developed, and of course it's open source. It's called Lombiq.Fields, and currently it contains two very useful content fields. One of them you have probably heard about or talked about before, because we mentioned this idea on one of the meetings before, is the MoneyField. So we have it in an open source module now, and the other one is the media library upload field. So MoneyField is of course about storing basically a number, a decimal value associated with a currency, and the media library upload field is a content field where you can upload files. So it's very closely tied to the media library picker field. But the difference is that the media items reach the system in a different way. So it's not uploaded by administrators, but uploaded by the user. And basically, you can put it on the front end. Obviously, you should probably apply some restrictions, of course. But yeah, that's it. So these are the two features. Oh, and actually, I'm showing this on a .NET site. So this feature, this module is available on .NET sites, so you can try it out right after the meeting, for example. So yeah, there are media library upload field and MoneyField, and I'm going to show you very quickly the content definition, because these are the settings you can apply. So the media library upload field has all the basic stuff like very similar to the media library picker field, like required, multiple items, uploading, some help text, and then there comes the interesting part where you can define the allowed file extensions. You can define a folder path where the files will be uploaded. You can define a maximum file size, so this will be applied after the web config when you are actually posting the request. And if you are uploading images, you can also define the width and height of the image that can be uploaded. And also when the image is displayed, you can specify a media profile that will be applied. And so I'm just going to show you very quickly how it works. Here's an editor for content type I've just created with only those two fields. So if you want to upload some files, for example, about Formula 1 cars, you can upload some more images, like this one, for example. Then just have to hit save, and the image will be uploaded. And actually, I'm going to show you.
Quebec?
Sorry?
Quebec?
Oh yeah, that's images in Hungarian.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Quebec.
Yeah, and oh yeah, actually, I have set a limitation. So then you can see that it's working. But actually, I have some images already uploaded. So I hope you believe me that you can upload images. And actually, I can show you that if you go to user uploads, I've defined a tokenized value for the folder path. So it's going to use my user ID, which is 2, and then the content type of the content item, which is demo, and then there's the 2 images. And the other one is the MoneyField. So the MoneyField has also the required setting. The currency read-only setting decides whether the user can change or choose a currency or not. or not, then of course it's going to be the default currency. So I've choose the currency of my small country, which is forint, and then you can also provide some help text. So I just disable this setting, so the currency is not read-only anymore. And if I refresh this editor, then you will see that I can change the currency now. Yeah, so I can choose from a very long drop-down list because there's a lot of currencies available. So I change it to let's say Costa Rican colon, which is I've never heard of that one before, but now that's it. And if you look at this content item, you can see that they are my the images I've uploaded, and here's the display of the MoneyField as well, and this is the actually Costa Rican colon symbol. So as I mentioned, the module is open source. I'm going to paste the URLs into the chat window. There's a Mercurial repository and a Git repository, and those are synced. So they are synced with Git HD mirror. So yeah, it's open source, available on .NET. So yeah, go ahead and try it. That's it for me.
Questions? I have questions. Does anyone have questions?
Okay.
Questions. First question. I thought it was a dynamic forms field. It's just a content type field.
Yes, it's a content field. That's right.
So why not use the MediaPickerField?
The scenario was that users should be able to upload items who doesn't have administrative access.
But now there is the own. It's fixed now in 19x, 192. You have the own media.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it was actually the MediaLibraryPickerField was developed, I don't know, months ago, and yeah, we've used it on the MediaKitty as well, for example, the site we have showed you before. So yeah, we just didn't want to discontinue it because it still have its use, and yeah, we just put it in a module.
Okay, so otherwise, because of the own media permission, it will be fine. I'm just trying to figure what's the difference. I think that there are some options that are not there, like the size, the limit of the size. I'm not sure we have that. Something which would be nice also would be a global size for the own folder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so per user restriction. Yeah.
Yes, and what else? You have the. So what's the profile? I don't get the profile that you.
So the profile is you can select a media profile, and when the image is displayed, then the media profile you select.
Okay.
That will be applied.
Okay, it's a display option. It's a display.
Yeah, yeah, that's a display
option.
Yeah.
For the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The field, and then the money we talked about.
By the way, Sébastien, the point here is that you can also use this field on the front end.
Yeah, actually, that's why I was expecting it to be a dynamic form, because we explicitly say those content type fields, they are for the admin. They are not for the front end. For the front end, do the dynamic forms. But if this one works on the front end, good for you. But
yeah,
I think we should separate the two and have a dynamic forms field.
Well, we can extend it so it also has a dynamic forms field. But yes, it works on the front end in a in a custom form, for example.
So that's why I wrote on the chat. I wanted that yesterday.
Okay.
In core, because we don't have a file upload right now. So, well, I'm sure we could extend your field to be any file. An image will be better in terms of display, maybe, or editor. I don't know. But as long as we can limit the extensions from the front end, the size, and it goes to the owner. Well, there should be an option to say, go to the owner folder or to this specific folder, something like that. That would be great for the front end.
Yeah, but you can so you can upload any kind of file, not just images, right? So it's really up to you, and then you can restrict also the extensions already, and then there are some image specific settings as well. So if the file you are uploading is an image, then those settings will also be applied.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Questions for Benedek? Nobody cares about a file upload module?
Actually, I see that Antoine cares, but I've answered that question.
I would have cared, but we were looking for more of a complete file manager, so we've gone on to a different path. But the file upload, having a user be able to upload files that it's not an admin was important to us.
From the dashboard or from the front end?
From the front end.
Okay, so this is something that we miss. And when we worked on the dynamic forms module, we explicitly said, yeah, it's not a priority. It can be done as a module or incorporated later in the core. So maybe good time for Lombiq to ship it as a dynamic form field.
Cool.
We have 3 Osvaldo. Maybe Osvaldo has some issues with Skype. That happens. It used to happen to Bertrand a lot at some point. Okay, so Zoltan is sharing the links on the chat. Good. No more questions? So I will present again. So next demo from myself about progress in Orchard 2. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so stupid. Status. So demos, Benedek, MoneyField, and file upload field. The status, I worked on the gallery almost all week to finish it. So the gallery, it's in production. But I have an issue with the domain name because we need the .NET Foundation to update the domain name, and it has not been done yet, so I will ping them again to see when it can be done. Otherwise, so it will be gallery.orchardproject.net like the current one. I won't take it down. It will still be up. Everything has been synchronized as of Friday afternoon, my time. And there hasn't been any new module, which is good. So this is the home page. It explains where the old gallery can be hit. So this is the cloud service URL once the domain has been redirected to this one. You can still use the old feed like the current one as of today, because this feed is using another domain, which is packages.orchardproject.net. So the old feed will still work. So all your Orchard installation will still work. But if you want to use the new feed, until we do the redirection from the old OData feed to the new OData feed, you need to use this URL. So if you want to use this galleries feed, you need to use this URL into your settings on your dashboard. So in your dashboard, there is a gallery tab at the bottom, and the gallery tab will let you define the fields for the gallery. And otherwise, everything should work. I should write a page to explain how to publish a package and how to welcome users, like create new accounts. But let me show you quickly how it works. I will connect with my user account, not the admin account. So yeah, exactly the same password as on the old gallery. I just decrypted all the passwords, looked at them, and copy-pasted them. Okay. Then this and that. Good. So once you are authenticated using your old account, you can go to the dashboard. And there you should see this thing. Very few options. You can manage your media. Media meaning all the screenshots, the icons, and packages if you want to publish it on the server, which is the only option so far. You can look at your content, which will contain all your packages and package versions. It's very slow. Orchard is very slow. We should do something for that. Or I will use a bigger instance. So you can see, why do you have access to Combinator? What is that? What did you do? What did you do, Zoltan?
It's just listed, by the way. Oh yeah.
Oh no, yeah, it's just listed. This is the latest updated package because Zoltan tried the gallery before it was public. So if I try to edit it, it will tell me you don't have access to this package, which is beautiful, right? Yeah, that's why. But I can still see it. But there is an option which is filter by owned by me. And this is why we added this feature. And you see the ones I own. And then this is a package, but I can also see just the versions of the package. Edit a specific version, or create a new package version. And when you are in a specific version, you can update the changelog for this version. The package also has some markdown for the full package, for the main page. You can define what is the container for this package, for this version, the number, and the package URL, which is right now in the media folder. And when you go to the media folder, you should only see your packages and your folders. And you can see I have many of them. All the ones which were all the contrib ones. Yeah. And I can see the icon, the package versions that you can upload. That's how it works. And that's beautiful. I will log out. And you will see that in themes, all the icons have been imported, and they are now also hosted on the same server. So now you upload the icon URL on the server. So there is no more HTTPS constraints and missing files. They are all there, and the screenshots too. So it's not a very nice theme for the gallery, but as I will be pushing it on GitHub, I will accept pull request, and it will be under the Orchard CMS org, so we'll be able to improve that. And also, please note that 3.0.7 is a bigger version than 3.0.11 because it's semver1, like NuGet. Just a quick note. Which might not be what you expect, but be careful. And the search also is working. I fixed it, Zoltan. Look at that. When you type maps, you just get 12 results. Beautiful.
Very nice.
Okay, questions about the gallery? So as soon as I have the domain set up, it will work. Not that... Okay, good. Now demo. So yes, this is about the gallery. I will gallery. Waiting for DNS change. Good. Yeah, and it looks like something is missing from here. I don't even know what. Image? Or maybe an image because of HTTPS? I don't know. That's weird. Good. Demo Orchard 2. So status. So last week I worked mostly on the gallery, but I was able to find a time to work on theming. So now if I run, so this is Orchard 2 for those who haven't seen that. There is a web app, it's almost the same. I run it. The difference when you run a DNX application, you just open the server in a console and you have to go to the browser by yourself. P // localhost, and this is display one, displaying the content item ID number 61 from database. It should work. It might not work because I was working right before the meeting. Oh, it works. Beautiful. So many things there. So improvement compared to last week. Last week I showed you two things. I showed you the content item, the content types, the new type system with the content items, and I also showed you the tag helpers, where you could use tag helpers to display shapes, because shapes then were working. Okay, you remember? This is the view that we used as a demo. Not this one. This is where is that? Home, display shape. This is what we ended up last week. So to display the base shape, you can just type base. Okay, no more display.base. It's just that, just HTML. It's beautiful. So what was missing was a theming. So it was just using no layout, no theme. This one is using a theme, as you can see, called the theme. And if I go to the display 61, display is this view, which just gets the content item that has been loaded and display its line property, which here is just foo. Okay. And what else is done, you can see, is everything is in a layout. And we also have something called ThemeLayout.footer.add some text and some position. So this part, well, this part is exactly the same as in Orchard 1. The difference here is that you have theme layout instead of layout, but still open to changes, which is exactly the same thing as in Orchard 1, meaning the layout shape that is rendered during this request. It has a different name, you might understand why, which is, well, because in Razor, the layout property is used to define the MVC layout of the current view. In Orchard 1, we were using layout, but how we used that was by overriding the default property of the base page, the base Razor page, by using a new layout property. So we will just replace the layout property of the MVC page by our own layout property, which will be a dynamic. The only issue with that was that it was then making all your views unable to use the actual MVC layout. I'm not sure it was a good thing or not, but so far I've tried to prevent the fact that we would override this explicit layout property. But we can still do it. It's very easy change. So I just named it theme layout, but otherwise it's the same thing. So you see, same thing as Orchard 1, you can still have the access to the layout. You just add things, which can be shapes, strings, whatever, in your zone, and you access it from the theme layout, which is defined in the base page of this view. And yes, you can still use the Oh, yes, to be able to use the tags, I would have needed to do a inject tag helper here, or tag helper, or something like that. But here, so how it works, let me show you that. If I go to the layout in the theme, so the theme here is the only theme I have, and the layout page, you see it's called layout.cshtml like in Orchard 1, not underscore layout like in MVC. But what you see here is that there is nothing specific to Orchard. Two changes compared to Orchard 1 so far, because everything is moving. First, you don't see ThemeLayout.Header display ThemeLayout.Header. It's just RenderSectionAsync. Okay, you don't see display layout.content. It's just render body. Okay, and the view is rendered here. So everything here is like MVC, but it's actually Orchard. What happens is that this page also inherits from the Orchard Razor page, which redefines what RenderSectionAsync is doing, redefine what render body is doing, and internally they are just let me show you. Oh, not this one. It doesn't find the correct implementation. Razor page. Internally, so you can see the display, which is injected in the view, the theme layout. You can see the render layout body, which is just doing the actual MVC layout body, and the overridden render body, which is calling display on the content zone, like in Orchard 1, and the render section, which is looking for the name section in the theme layout and rendering it. Okay, so this is how it's done. I try to make it this way so that it will be easier for a theme author to understand how to render a zone, like, oh, it's just a section, fine. And the body, oh, it's just the body, this is where it goes, and there will be more documentation about it. You don't have to understand, because if you take the default layout today, people are confused with what is the zone lambda, which is actually calling display, and if model.content different than null, then it's crazy. So I try to make it simpler in the layout. So this is the first change. Second change that you will notice is that there is no document shape right now. I explicitly removed it. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but in your layout now you can define everything. So just say if you think it's good to remove document and just keep everything in layout. It's like a big master page, but again, it's the shape, so there will be many layouts if you want your theme. But here we can see everything in one shot. No more confusion about what is document, what is layout. Also understanding how it works, because document was actually a wrapper around layout, so it was not obvious why you would have to call display, child, content, something like that in the document. I could not see any advantage of using a different shape for document, if not just to reuse the document on many themes, but I'm not sure it's very useful compared to the complexity that it's adding. So here it works. So far in the current implementation of the theme selection, I'm explicitly setting the theme to be called the theme, because we don't have the notion of settings right now in Orchard. We can't change it, so it's just one theme. But let me show you default theme selector. You see here, I'm just taking the one which is called the theme. You can imagine that by just changing this line and looking at the current settings, boom, you have the theme that you have set up for the settings. Or, yeah, well, it could be a settings theme selector, and then you can have all your culture theme selector and all the theme selector that you want, like in Orchard 1. But this one is just taking the theme by default. Yeah, that's about it, and yeah, that works beautiful. So this, if you look at this page request, the pipeline, what we have here is we have a database call to get a content item. The content item is loaded. The content item is passed to the view. Where is my controller? You see, it's very simple. Display gets an ID. So we say content manager, get me the content item with this ID. Render the content item in the view. The view is called display. So let's go to display. It gets a content item. We just say project the content item to this part, test content part A, and access the line property, which is a string. So render the part value. Then add some stuff in the theme section named footer, which is rendered from the layout here. Okay. And we are using shapes, so layout shapes. Well, just a layout shape actually here, plus some sub shapes, sub content in the zone here. We are using the theme based on the layout, which will render every zones. So we have almost everything that we could imagine in the request pipeline to include. I can't think about anything more than that will be added to that. Well, in the theme we'll have the navigation and all the content from other zones, but at least we have a pretty good idea of what it could do. And it's pretty fast. With that pipeline, on my local machine using SQL Express, I can have about 700 requests per second with a 20 millisecond response time. So in a production environment, it will be faster, but at least it gives you an idea of the speed. And there is theme resolution. Everything is resolved here, so it's pretty close to what we will have in prod with some actual content. Even if we divide the performance by 2, there is absolutely no cache. It will still be 10 times faster than what we have in Orchard today. Questions? Everyone is dead? No.
It's very cool.
Great.
So next step on the theme side, maybe to have this as a setting somewhere, if not in the side settings, just to have it somewhere we can change and ensure it works. I will see if I have to start with the site settings, which could be also the solution, and have the site settings stored in a file right now just to be able to progress on that part. I know that Nick was working on the import-export story. I haven't heard from GV, who I don't think he's here, who was working with Orchard 2 on some multi-tenancy website and theming also. Maybe you would be interested into using that. Yeah, but next step after the theming will be the identity story, because to make the admin we'll need some kind of authentication story, at least a minimal set of that. So which will make the link with the next discussion that I wanted to talk about, identity. What should we do in Orchard 2 for identity management?
Something that everybody does.
Correct.
I don't know what that is for MVC, but not something custom.
So in MVC there is the notion, there is support of ASP.NET identity providers. Let me know if I'm wrong. ASP.NET identity providers, which are supported in ASP.NET 5 and so in ASP.NET MVC 6. I assume the default implementations are based on EF7. Okay. Implementation meaning storage, like storage of credentials, users, profiles, everything is stored using EF7 providers, storage providers. But at the same time, I see that Alberto, I see that Gustavo and some others are playing with identity server. And I'd like to know what is the difference between the two and why we should go with one or the other. Gustavo, if you can answer that.
Yeah, so, well, Identity Server lets you wire up any type of repository that you want. So if you wanted to use ASP.NET Identity, you could tie that into Identity Server for the user repository. Otherwise, it'll just use in-memory, which is compiled at runtime.
But when you say user repository, you really mean like you have 100 users, their accounts will be...
Yeah, so when you actually set up Identity Server in the OWIN context, you specify the user repository, and that can be really much anything. They have built in, it's where the username and the password is stored, and the authentication method, that you have to handle that on your own. So the Identity Server product that we're using is basically using Orchard as the user repository. So it's the Orchard user data store, so user record, and the Orchard authentication interfaces for authenticating against that. What Identity Server does is it gives us the OAuth interface, the OpenID Connect stuff that is not built into Orchard at all.
Okay, so if we were to change these storage providers from ASP.NET Identity providers,
yeah, the trick there, though, is that it uses EF7, and Identity Server 3, the latest, I believe, uses EF6.
Yeah, but in our case, in Orchard 2.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter really, but yeah.
So we could use just Orchard storage.
Yep.
And all the authentication schemes that ASP.NET Identity providers provide, which I assume is most of them.
Yeah, pretty much, because the way Identity Server works is you say, you know, authenticate user, and you pass in the credentials that they're throwing in through the form, and then that you can say during that in that method you can say you can pass in a repository like a dependency, and you know Orchard membership store dot authenticate user.
So I see George is also using Identity Server. So are you using Identity Server just because Orchard doesn't support more than the forms?
Well, we're using Identity Server to federate, I think it's 4 or 5 different applications. So Orchard will be one of them, MVC app will be one of them. We have a couple web forms apps, and we wanted just a single sign-on capability to kind of tie them all together. So we're actually going backwards from what Gustavo is doing. We're going to have, you're going to auth somewhere else, then you're going to show up, and we're going to have to create a user part record and bind you to whatever comes back from IS. But so far, we like the way it's put together, and it's been easy for us to. At some point, we might write an Active Directory provider, an LDAP provider, but right now we have another user story we're going to authenticate against.
Let's sign in is a scenario, and can you manage the users with Identity Server directly? Like add new users, manage roles, permissions?
I think we're building screens for that. I don't know if IS has stuff out of the box to do that. I don't know that it does.
Yeah, I don't think it does. There is an Identity Server Manager. It's a separate product that does let you do that, but we're using Orchard to manage our users in our environment.
No, we're just going to write our own.
And when you do single sign-on, then the profiles are also in the Orchard tenants? The users?
Well, the auth will happen on Identity Server, but we're going to keep the permissions and all the other stuff inside the Orchard tenants.
So you have a user content item still in the...
Yeah. So I mean, we have a similar setup now for our we auth over our API, so it's kind of we're going to remove one and put the other one in as a replacement. But yeah, we basically when you sign in, if it doesn't have a user part record for you, it creates one on the fly.
Yeah, for us it actually doesn't. It just we overrode the authorization implementation, and it pulls all that stuff from the root tenant.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say that we could try to re-implement the storage part like they did for EF7 with our own storage, and because everything is now in middleware, even now in Orchard 2, we could have the same thing for Identity Server. Well, anyone could build their own Identity Server integration. I'm sure it will work very easily.
Yep.
Okay, good. Thanks. Great. Questions, comments about that? I will look into it then. While we are on Orchard 2, Gustavo just replies to one comment, which was, because Orchard 2 is new, let's document it now. Yes, what I'm trying to do, well, I'm kind of stupid because I didn't for the past week, but what I was trying to do with Orchard 2, let me show you some examples. While I was, let me show you an example where, yes, the container factory, for instance. When I was writing the new code, trying to be explicit about what it is doing, not that much here, but what it is doing, and yet really document the code to understand what it does and why we do that. Even on the existing classes, I don't even find the example where I just plainly documented a class we had in Orchard, but it was not clear what it was doing, and I'm like, okay, let's write the summaries on every method, and now we know. So yeah, I'm trying to do my best on everything that when it's not obvious. Okay, like add instance settings. I won't comment that. It's just adding the settings to the tenant service collection. But I'm trying to document the code at least. At the same time, there are some things that are not correctly explained in how they work globally. Like, let's say, how do the tags helpers work? what classes and why, and where is it injected? Is it per request? Is it per application, per tenant? That, or even the theming story. What do we need to create our own theme engine? Things like that. So I will try to document the code as much as I can while I write it, and we'll see if others follow the trend. But it will be useless to start working on some documentation for this thing, because we are not even sure what it will look like in 1 week. Also, I forgot, crap. Yep, I think that's it. Yes, so yeah, best effort on documenting the code. If while you see some progress, you find a class and you don't understand what it does, just raise an issue. Can someone comment on that, or add a description on how it's working and what it's doing and why the decision? So it's very new, so please, while it's new, look at it and look at the progress. And if you don't understand something or you want to understand something, ask the question. Oh yes, also when I do some progress, I post it on Gitter. Like when I did the content type system refactoring, I explained everything on Gitter with lots of details, just to drive the discussion. So it was also a good way to do a brain dump where it was fresh, and it should still be there, Gitter. And I think that's a good medium also to share that, because then it opens the discussion and people can comment on that. It must be far away. When was it? Oh, it must be around there.
I've pasted it into the chat. I'm not sure if you can open all of it correctly, but I have it saved.
Okay, you should be able to give a link on the discussion. If you right click on this thing, you see right click. No. This one. This is a link to this comment. So if you right click and paste the link.
I think it was last Thursday or something like that.
Yeah, okay. Here's some code I saw. Yes, here. So you see this one, for instance, about the content type system. And I explained everything about the new content type system and how it was done and the changes compared to Orchard 1. I will paste it. Copy link. Where is copy link? There is no copy link. I just need to click and select it there. This is this looks what it looks like when I explain that. And I think I should do the same with other parts like the tag helpers, how it's done, and at least we have something somewhere if we want to refer to it later when we do documentation. It will be good. Then NuGet, while we have time. There is an open issue. There's a PR actually. King. So Rob has been working on migrating all the lib folders to NuGet. Oh, I missed part of the conversation. So there is a PR associated to this issue, and there is some discussion about that. What's his name? Can't remember. Martin, Internet Factory, was saying that he didn't like it, and for some reasons. I commented also, so please take a look. It's important because I know that mostly from the bigger companies, contributors have tried to move to NuGet many times. This is the first PR we have, so that will be good to know if we should take it or why we should not take it. So please raise your voice and give arguments for or against that. It will be important, even more if there are some things that will prevent it completely, even one single reason. We need to know. You see, it's breaking our process, so we need to understand why it's breaking the process. So far, his argument was mostly legal, not technical, because I didn't see why it would break. I remember I had lots of arguments against. I can't remember them, so that's fine. Let's start again the discussion. But like every change, doesn't make everyone happy. So we have to understand the implications of that. So please look at it. Is it pasted in the chat? We should have lots of comments. Why it's not too late to check. My request was mainly to ensure that we are not breaking all the deployment stories. The standard build, the build precompiled, how we publish from Visual Studio, that we must ensure that the packages are downloaded up to date in the correct locations. How do we build the web package on release? What does the web package contain? It has to contain all the dependencies, but where in the bin folders? So things like that. We need to ensure. Maybe it just works, but we need to ensure that everything still works, or we have a solution for that. Good. Questions? Did I miss something? I don't think from the notes here. Again, if there is something that you want to see in Orchard 2 compared to Orchard 1, please file an issue on the Orchard 2 repo. Oh, there is also a repository for the gallery. So if you find an issue on the gallery, it's linked on the home page, Orchard Gallery. The repository is here, and I point to the issues directly. So if you find an issue, if you want some improvements, just file an issue, and so we can follow up on that. That's about it. Questions? Good then. So see you on Thursday for the triage, or next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
I think Matt Christensen had some questions, but I don't know.
Matt, yeah, I'm still here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm very new to this. I just started looking into Orchard just a little over a week ago, really. Wanted to give a little bit of my background. I've been a .NET developer since 2002, and didn't really enter the web world until 2004. And obviously that was with web forms, and got involved with the .NET Nuke content management system very early in 2006. And so essentially I was kind of stuck in the web forms world for a very long time, up until last year. 95% of my web server-side web development work was done using web forms. So about a year ago, I started a new project, a startup that I'm working on, and the decision was made that I needed to break that habit and move to the MVC world. So I looked for some content management systems at the time. I didn't find this one, and I also realized that my newness to MVC as it was, that I really just needed to kind of start pure and learn the framework and the methodologies before I get involved in anything too complicated. So long story short, I spent the last year building a fairly substantial MVC-based web application. And I'm getting to that point where I realize that, I really need to work it into some kind of a CMS so that it's easier for users of that system to manage content, and then we can put more updates to the website through content people instead of developers. So I'm kind of turning towards Orchard to do that. And so I guess in the process of learning this, and like I said, I'm still kind of early on, I find myself trying to draw a lot of parallels between what I know and what's here, and sifting through what documentation is there. And So I guess one of the concepts I'm having a little bit of a difficult time with, and again, it might be because of the parallel that I'm trying to draw, so let me explain that first. So in .NET Nuke, you had the concept of a theme, and the theme would have content panes within it. And so when you created a page, it itself was not considered to be content. Instead, it had these panes that needed to be populated. And so you would add a module, and the module would be of a particular type, the most basic being the text HTML module. So that would go inside the page. And I guess what I'm getting in Orchard is that we're organizing that hierarchy a little different, where there are different types of content, but that the content represents what I'm used to working with or thinking of as a page. And so I wonder, is there anybody that might have an idea where I'm coming from the discussion that could kind of give me an idea of how to work out what a piece of content in Orchard is versus what we might otherwise think of it as a page or specific to a module.
So I personally can't compare to DNN. I've never tried it, or maybe like at the beginning, very beginning.
Uh-huh.
We sure can explain. Does anyone know about someone who knows about DNN? And did the migration, because we have people who did the conversion from conversion, who then used Orchard after DNN and will maybe more helpful. What we can do is, even without knowing DNN, explain you what a page is in Orchard.
Sure.
And how it works technically.
I think there's a conceptual difference, or at least something that you may have missed, because it's not easy to discover just like that out of thin air, is that basically content can be anything you want it to be. So there are components in the system that are reusable, and if you have a page, then you can transform it into anything different with just adding or removing elements that are content parts and content fields.
Yeah, I'm lost, Benedek.
That's a problem.
Okay, so maybe I'll just throw kind of a conceptual question out there. If we've got a website and there's a blog module, then you have individual posts. So if I'm not mistaken, a specific post would be considered a piece of content.
It's a content item.
So it's a content item.
Yeah, let's do it on the reverse order. When you go to a website in Orchard and you hit a URL, let's say you want to go to a specific blog post. It's a blog post URL, so you type the URL. Then in MVC, like in Orchard, there will be a routing. And the route can be defined by any module in Orchard. So any module can say, hey, I want to enter this route. So when you type the URL of a blog post, there is a module in Orchard called alias, which defines all the nice URLs mapping to not nice URLs. In this case, it will the blog post module will just say, oh, I will create a content type named blog post, and this content type will have a title and a nice route, which we call an auto route in Orchard. And this nice route will be computed automatically based on the title. So when you create a blog post in Orchard, the title will be computed into a nice route. And this nice route will be registered to the alias module, which itself will register a route for this nice content item, for this nice route to this nice content item. So alias module knows about the blog post because the blog post content item told it that it had a nice route. And so the alias module gets the request and converts it to, oh, you want to hit this URL, which is a nice route for this blog post. So let me rewrite it to display the blog post number 10. And there is another module in Orchard, which is called the contents module, which defines a route to display a content by its number, by its ID. And this module, called the contents module, has a controller and an action which will just render a content item. When it gets called by the alias module, it will say, okay, you want to render item number 10. Let me load it from the database. So it will call into the content manager, say, give me the item number 10, which will be a content item object. And then the theming story will be called, meaning the content manager knows it has to render a content item. So it will call all the modules saying, all the modules, I want to render this content item. What do you want to render and where do you want to render it? And at this point, this is what we call drivers, the components which will be able to explain how to render something. All the drivers in Orchard, and there can be hundreds, and I'm sure by default there is 100 drivers. They will be called and say, okay, do you want to render this content item? And there is one driver in the blog module that says, I know how to render a blog post specifically. I need to extract this text, I need to extract the date, I need to extract whatever, and I will render it this way. But there can be another module, for instance, the title module, which will say, hey, I know how to render a title of something. So if your content item has a title, I will render it. And there is another module called the tags module, which says, hey, I know how to render the tags of a content item. If you have a tags, I know how to render it. So they are all called, and in the end, they all provide pieces of data or pieces of stuff to render, okay, and where they should be rendered. And we call it shapes. So every driver, every module will decompose this content item into displayable content that we call shapes. And in the end, we have a list of shapes which are placed in what we call zones. So for instance, the blog post will say, the tags module will say, I want to render the tags of the blog post in the zone called metadata. And the title will say, I want to render the title in the zone called header. And these names are purely conventional. Each module defines where it wants to put it. So in the end, we have a hierarchy of shapes that were composed from the content item itself. And these shapes needs to be rendered. So at that point, when we have all the shapes from all the driver, the theme engine will say, let's project all these things into actual HTML zones. And this is where the templates of each shape appear. Because at the root of all these shapes tree, we have something called the layout, which is just a bunch of zones, each self-containing, I think what you could call them the panes in DNN. So this layout has a bunch of section zones, which have themselves some shapes. And the layout, when it's rendered, just display a list of divs for each zone. Okay, it's like your main sections in your master page. And each of these zones, they have different shapes. So for each of the shapes, again, we are trying to find a template for each of them to render. And after that, the full page is rendered. That's how it works globally.
Okay, so that was a very good description. Thank you. You definitely cleared a lot up. So I guess here's a question that might help me is, so you take a content item, a blog post, and you've got replies to it. So from one perspective, you might want to view that blog post under a specific, we'll call it a view, where you do see all of the comments below it.
Mm-hmm.
And then perhaps you may also, so each one of those comments below it is really its own content item, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, but meanwhile, you may also want to open up a page that goes specifically to that content item.
Correct. So
rather the reply to the blog post. Yep. So is that a matter of using routing to figure out which layout is?
The routing doesn't care about the layout. The routing just says what you want to see, what thing you want to see, what action you want to be processed. So in this case, for instance, how do the comments get under the blog? It's because when you called the contents controller saying, I want to display item number 10, it loaded the content item, and then the comments module said, hey, I can render this content item because it has what we call comments. And in Orchard, it's comments part. It has a comments part. It has a tags part. It has a title part. Because of this comments part, we just mean a blog post has comments. So the module comments decided, now I need to render them because you want to render something which has comments. So I will render them. And it rendered them by loading them in another query. So when you say load a blog post, then the comments module said, well, let me load all the comments with one SQL query. Load it, and calling all the drivers for every content item of the comments, again, like recursively, and it returned like 10 shapes because we have 10 comments. And when the shape says I need to render a comment, it found a template called comments.html, which is the one which displayed each comment. And in this template, it rendered a link to another action, which is displayed the content item number 12 because this comment is number 12. So when you will click on this URL, again, the full mechanism will happen, but at the comment level and not the blog post level. So there will be another query, which will be either with a nice URL or a very raw URL, and then the same contents controller will display this comment. The issue here being that it's very simplistic explanation, as the two queries, the two requests that we would have done would have been on the same controller action, which is render a content, which is the only one to understand about theming, because you could have another module with another action and controller which don't care about content items. They just do something based on some other kind of IDs, some other kind of routes, which are specific to this module and not linked to the content management. For instance, when you click on the login button, it doesn't display a content item. It just shows a form, because this URL has been linked to the user or authentication controller and action just to render a simple form, not to render any themed shape or content item. No, just render this view, done.
Okay, if you were to manage, let's say you wanted two different URLs that went to a specific blog post, and in one case you would want to show just the post, and in the other case you'd want to show the post with the contents.
Okay.
So would that simply be, through the route, whether it's query string items or...
I will do a query string because you still want to display the same thing, but you want another property that the driver for the comments will understand, like, well, the current request contains a query string called show no comment, so the driver will just return nothing, the comments part driver. It will just say, I don't need to render the shape. Yeah.
So it's the driver that makes decisions about the context of what should and should not be shown.
Yes, in this case, yes. They are all called by the content manager. The content manager doesn't know about the context, but the driver themselves can decide when or not to return a shape to be rendered.
Okay. Yeah, I think that answers a lot of questions and starts to put...
There is also another layer which is called the placement, so that when your driver returns some shapes, you can also have another step which is now to define where it has to be placed, because the driver will give you a default position or a default zone, but for each module or in each theme, you can override when these shapes are rendered. For instance, you could say that the comments, they go on top of the blog post and not at the bottom, but the comments driver, it doesn't know what you want. So it just say, well, you can render the comments, but in your theme, your own theme, you will have a placement.info file where you can say the comments for a blog post are displayed in the zone named content after anything. You can say that, or before anything, or position 2. So there is another layer which will place the shapes somewhere in your layout. And this placement can also have some context, meaning, hey, are you on this URL or does it contain this query string? Then placement equals nothing, meaning don't display it, even if the driver returned it. So there are different levels of interaction where you could solve this specific issue, but this way you understand all the pipeline.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, thank you. I think that that helps to put it helps to put a little bit more perspective on this as I try to learn the concept. So I think what I'll do is I'll kind of dwell on the information I've gotten from you before I go into any more questions, just so that I don't draw this out forever.
Good. That's fine. We are in Gitter, you know.
Okay.
Just ping us.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.